Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's Dave Sharpe. Welcome to Wake Up Legendary. And yet another amazing day, my friends. Yet another amazing episode. Bring on the one of the mans, the myths, the legends here, Mr. Ryan Halpert. Good morning, buddy.
Morning, Dave. What's going on? Looking crispy over there, putting me to shame over here.
I really am, dude. You look bad right now. It's unbelievable.
You look unbelievably bad. I can't believe you would show up that way.
I can't believe you would show up so pixelated.
My camera's 4K. I should be coming in nice and clear. It's StreamYard's fault if I look bad.
Oh, God. I don't know about that. How's my audio coming through? We doing good? Can you guys hear me out there?
I can hear you. Sounds great.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I told you I'd figure it out. So, and I didn't actually do anything different. I didn't do anything between the time that I was literally just 30 seconds backstage before we went live. My audio was not looking good or sounding good. And I was like, let's just go live. I'll figure it out. And here we are. We're figuring it out. I mean, it's that's how you do it. Sometimes you got to figure it out as you're live. And you know what? When that pressure's on, you'll figure it out when you're live. There'll be more of a reason for you to do so. So anyways, I'm glad I'm coming through here at least somewhat decent. What are we gonna be talking about today, man?
Oh man. Well, I was going through social media the other day and I just kind of noticed how often I just see these weird oddball videos that just get the comments going like crazy. Like I saw a video the other day of some lady hoisting her laundry basket up her instead of carrying her laundry basket up the stairs, she had a ratchet strap, like something you'd use to tie down a load in a truck bed. And she was hoisting it up the stairs over the railing. Video had millions and millions of views. Text on screen had nothing to do with what she was doing in the video. It was totally unrelated. And the video just went absolutely mega viral. Now, the interesting thing about it, reason I bring it up and it's worth talking about, is because she could have said the same exact thing in her text. And if she was doing something boring, like sitting at a desk, looking at a phone, or sitting in a chair, writing in a notebook, the video wouldn't have performed. It's these little tiny oddball things that just get people, right? What people say they want to see and what they'll actually pay attention to are two totally different things. They want this well thought out, high quality, thoughtful content, so they claim. But what they'll pay attention to is somebody doing something just totally ridiculous and weird, and it'll get millions and millions of views, and then they'll share it with every person that they know. So it's crazy. Another example is a video I just watched before we came on. A guy was grilling a steak, but instead of grilling it on the grill, he had a stump, like a tree stump in his yard that he hollowed out. He put a metal grate over it and he put a fire inside the stump. And that's how he was grilling his steaks. No talking in the video. Steaks look really good too. No talking, just music in the background. But this guy's grilling steaks on a log and he's just there, and it's just like an 8-second video, and he's there with the tongs, not even looking at the camera, just flips the steak over, and then it zooms in on the steaks and it zooms out on the steaks and it gets a different angle, and then the video ends. And it's like, how, obviously setting that up is something that, you're not going to do that for a video. You're going to do that because it's just like a cool thing you talk about with your friends when they come over. But still, if you have something like that, it makes for an interesting video that people will pay attention to and people will talk about. But you don't even have to get that complicated, like just sitting around and just fidgeting with some kind of oddball prop, like if I was sitting here at my desk instead of playing with my phone, right? I was like cutting up a stack of sticky notes and just letting all the shrapnel fall down to the floor. That's just a weird, unusual thing people will pay attention to. Or if I was like, I don't know, sitting here cutting up a loaf of bread. I mean, what kind of weird stuff can you do that'll just
slicing bread, and then you could say this is the best thing since sliced bread.
There you go. Right, exactly. Just weird stuff. So so props, I mean, props are just so good for getting views and getting attention and getting people to just kind of like listen to you, because it's something that gets the attention. It's a pattern interrupt. There is a video too. I forget the brand. It was a large brand. It was like a Starbucks sized brand. and they had this video that did something like 300 million views, and it was a very well-made video. It was like your typical commercial-looking video, but throughout the whole video, they put this curved line across it, so it looked like your phone screen was cracked. I was reading about this in an article over the weekend. I was just, kind of fumbling through stuff, and I stumbled on this. And because of that crack, the video performed. People just all of a sudden, they get all worked up. Like, it causes anxiety. Like, people want to figure, oh my God, is my phone cracked? They start blowing on their screens to see if the hair is going to go away, It's these tiny little super simple things that are very intentional that'll just skyrocket your views up, as opposed to just every video you're kind of just doing something normal that people expect to see, right? Like you're typing on a laptop, or you're not. There's anything wrong with those things, but it's definitely far less interesting than some of the stuff we're talking about now.
Cooking a steak inside of a tree stump.
Yeah, I actually took a screenshot of the video so I could show you. It's
okay, good.
Yeah.
Always good.
Yeah, there it is. See, look, there he is right there.
Oh my God, that's not a very small. That's a big ass tree stump, dude.
Oh yeah, I
mean, I was thinking a tiny little tree stump, dude. Put that back up there.
No, it could be.
Put that back up there. That's a big dude. That's a freaking. That's a bar. That's a stove top. That's a damn. That's bigger than some people's countertops. Some people just walked into their kitchen and got sad after seeing that. They're like, "Damn, my kitchen isn't even that big."
Yeah, but it's cool. I mean, it's amazing. The video's got 12,000 likes on it right now. I don't know the exact view count, but it's got 12,000 likes, and it was uploaded like less than 24 hours ago. So it's incredible. Now, so what kind of things could you start bringing into your videos that are just kind of like that, not like that to that extreme or to that level, but or maybe you do have some of those things, but like that to the in just the weirdness or unusualness sort of scale, There's a parenting, a guy parenting I saw over the weekend. It's a parenting page. But what he does is he's a mechanic, and instead of, now I don't know if there's anybody here who's a mechanic, or any of the ladies have mechanic husbands here, but is
that a
the
plug
smell
to yourself, because you know that you're a heavy equipment mechanic?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The smell
that's anybody here a mechanic except me.
And mine better not be the only one. But anyways, if you know anybody, the smell that comes from a repair shop, from the oil and the oils and the chemicals and the sprays and all the stuff we use, the cleaning detergents. This guy was repairing an engine, teaching his daughter how to repair an engine, but he was doing it in his living room. So he was in a living room. The couch is in the background. You got the regular carpet there, and he's got the engine stand with the little roll cart and all the tools, and they're taking this engine apart in the living room.
Wow.
Video that probably wouldn't have done any views if he was in a repair shop in the right environment. But because he's in his living room, it's different. It catches attention. It's weird. People talk about it.
Yeah. Everybody's thinking, damn, I got to ruin my living room now with some, some oily ass thing, right? Because it's like a lot of these videos that you see, there's some cleanup. You know what I mean? Like, there's some cleanup. Like even that video that went viral, that everybody was analyzing over the last couple of weeks with the bodybuilding dude who was drinking the Saratoga water and dipping his face in it. I think his name's Ashton, and he drops the bottle in one of the videos. Like the girl in the video throws it to him, but he drops it, and it's like glass all over the floor. I mean, whether it's something small like that, like that's small cleanup compared to some things that, like what you just described, like an oily engine in your living room. But I mean, there's so many different ways that we can be like creative and eye-catching, I guess, for lack of better terms, with your content and with things that you're doing. It's like you could be interesting by what you're talking about. Like, again, I think one of the things that 15, 16 years ago when I started this and I was talking about my drug addiction and all this kind of crazy stuff, there's a lot of people who talk about that now, but not so much back then. So it was kind of shocking. I think, to people. And even when I talk about it now, like just details like that about my life, being willing to go into being willing to go into like details like that, I think is it can be shocking to people. But yeah, props, like fidgeting with things, like girls are stirring and making matcha tea in their videos. Of course, the get ready with me videos are like wildly popular nowadays, where a girl's just like sitting there putting on her makeup in the mirror. And that's like, for whatever reason, I think one of the chicks that does this, that like has really embraced this kind of getting ready with me transparent, I'm just gonna turn the phone on and just start recording while I create content, is Bethany Frankel, which I think she was on Six in the City or something, right? I don't even know. I can't remember. Or maybe a bunch of movies. I'm sure somebody in the that's watching knows. But anyway, she's always doing these getting ready with me videos. She's taking people into her closet as she puts stuff on. She's talking about her Botox. She's being just very transparent. And I think that transparency also, I see a lot of us doing that, and some of us do a better job at it than others. But yeah, I mean, okay, Real Housewives on NYC, Bethany Frankel? Really? Bethany Frankel was a Real Housewife? Oh, shit. I thought she was more.
Becca would know. She watches every single one of them. In fact, I was getting some housewife time in last night, as a matter of fact. As I come out of here to finish for the day.
That is so
housewives are on the TV.
funny. That connection, I had no idea. That is so funny. Wow. Is this were the stars aligning on that example, that I bring up a girl who literally you were just watching an episode of the show that made her famous? That's weird. That's just, I don't know, synchronicities in the planet. I don't know. But anyways, okay, also skinny margarita girl. Yeah. Yeah, she's a beast. She gets marketing. Here's my point. She gets marketing. She uses a lot of props, and therefore she adds, elements to her videos that are more interesting than just what she's saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like even having like a nice studio, like you're not used to seeing, like you're coming through right now in 4K, you've got the
I feel like a gang, like I could throw a gang sign, but like
we need a 4K gang. There you go.
Okay.
There it is. Okay. You got to figure out how to make well, anyways, I'm not going to make a fool of myself on here, but it's more unusual than just the average selfie video people are seeing, right? Or the point of view video where they're filming something, right? It's, you come in and all of a sudden you've got this guy in 4K, and he's in a nice studio setup with a microphone
next to a scrub knot in like 1500K.
Hey, listen, don't make me put you to shame. I'll spend all day in this office souping this place up. But no, but seriously, like it's just an unusual thing, right? So it's like even just the microphone being there is like a pattern interrupt too. It's like acts as a prop, it's where there's a certain sort of like I don't know, a different expectation. Maybe it's just not the typical video, Now we see a lot of like
people expect when I'm on 4K for me to say something more intelligent than you on 1500K. I think they're expecting more value, right? If I'm coming through this crispy, they're like, this shit better be good, right? If this guy spent enough on his camera setup, that this shit better be good. Whereas the lower expectations, the lower the quality of your video is, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're to a day and age now where the slightly higher quality has like 1080 has become normal. So if you're coming in pixelated and you're fuzzy and you're a little choppy, like people won't even spend the time on it. They'll just right to the next one, like instantly, without even giving you, what's my camera? You see this? That's my 4K acting up on me. Let me zoom this back out here.
Some AI camera shit that's going on right now. What is happening? That's actually pretty dope. I don't know how to do that over here. I just look at it and it's just in the same frame. You look at it and it zeroes in right on your eyes. That was pretty gangster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of ways to integrate props, and being normal, being boring on your videos is one of the ways to get no views and build no brand. And I would dare to say that some of the greatest marketers and salespeople of this century, i.e., one of them being our president. Now, hate him or love him, I mean, the guy's just knows how to. He's not afraid to, you know he doesn't care about how he looks, doesn't care about what you think, and says whatever he wants to say. And sure, some of that might be, who knows what's going on with the guy. I don't know. I'm not here to analyze him. I really don't give a shit. But his style of marketing has worked. And the reason why I know that is because you either hate him or love him. And that's good marketing. If you feel nothing about it, then it hasn't done enough. The message wasn't polarizing enough. Because product makers want you to either love or hate what they're doing, right? Because if you don't feel anything, it's like art. It's probably not a good piece of art. And so, one of the things that just works in marketing is, I see people who, I've seen some girls lately in videos get down next to their car as if they have a flat tire, and then say somebody else's name, and then be like, well, I don't know, that's not my problem, this isn't my car, my name's not even Jess. And then they go into their thing, you know what I mean? And it's like just a pattern interrupt that just is like, what the fuck, what am I watching here? It just catches you. And you can do that with anything. You could be weird and silly and funny like that with anything. That's a sort of an act with a prop that's not even yours that anybody could do. Go standing next to a car being like, if my car broke down, I wouldn't know how to change a flat tire. Hey, my name's Jess, and if my car broke down, I don't even know what I would do, because I don't know how to start, change a flat tire. Good thing that's not my problem today. Hell, this isn't even my car. My name's not even Jess. My name's Dave, and I'm right. And then you just go into your thing, right? And it's just like, well, why would I start my video out like that? It makes no sense. And that's exactly why, right? So there's so many different creative ways that nowadays you have to be doing something that's going to stand out, something that's different. You have to have, and I've always said this, a little 10 to 20% more on your personality on video. 10 to 20% more hand gestures, 10 to 20% more animation, because it even gets watered down more because you're not in person. When you're in person, you can feel somebody's energy. You're almost held hostage to by they're holding you there, right? In a sense, you're held in a conversation. There's nothing holding somebody from watching your video except a thumb, just that, and you're gone. It's different than real life. It's different than real life. People don't walk away from conversations in real life like as easy as that. It's like you gotta, all right, wow, that's crazy, or whatever. You gotta say things to get out of the conversation to not be weird, right?
Yeah.
So it's about grabbing, but then also keeping people's attention. And again, that's why a lot of the get ready with me, if you ever see a video that says GRYM, that's a get ready with me video. That's why these videos became popular, because people will watch for whatever reason. It's like ASMR, which I don't know what that stands for. Maybe you could look that up for us real quick. What does ASMR stand for? What is that an abbreviation for? But either way, these videos, it's sort of like when these guys or girls, but I tend to see it more from girls because they're like using their fingernails and stuff, and they're doing all these sounds in the microphone, and it's relaxing to some people to listen to that. That's the prop. What's it stand for?
Autonomous sensory meridian response.
Okay.
Who the hell packaged that up? I mean, that's, I don't know that anybody really knows what that means or knew what that meant. I didn't know what it meant, but
well, That's why Papa Bear, posed the question. It's like, let's learn.
Yeah.
Let's
But
learn.
ASMR is a whole lot easier to remember. I could tell you that.
It is, and it's an example of this kind of, doing something that's outside of the norm. Who the hell would have thought that, tapping on, and doing little things would be interesting to people? But there's ASMR videos out there that have millions and cajillions of views, and it's just examples of using props. Now, it's not that people don't like to listen to people talk, because look, like, we get there's a million people listening to this right now. There's a million people that are going to listen to the replay. No hyperbole there. But it's like, we're just talking, right? And this is really interesting. But my point here is that, like, if you compare a lecture or some sort of a podcast to the Super Bowl or the NBA playoffs, like, people like to watch people do stuff, right? They listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, listening to live shows like this. This has only recently become popular, right? Not that talk shows and stuff weren't popular, but people like to see people doing stuff. So it's common sense. The more you can integrate it into your videos to not make it feel so, again, normal, right? The better you're gonna do. I saw a guy a while back on TikTok, I think it was, who walked around with ducks. He had ducks all over his house and his yard. And like, every time he was in a video, he had a little duckling with him. And it was just, he was always doing funny stuff. He was always doing just stunts and things like that, drinking alcohol with his grandma. But the duck, literally,
Yeah.
the
Must
duck.
be two-parent Tony you're talking about.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
I know him.
I know. I am. I mean, he just, right. So he's become popular from drinking alcohol with his grandma, like getting sloshed and trashed with his grandma, and his mom is sort of like always kind of harping, but he's a grown man. I don't know if he still lives with his, probably not anymore, but he had little ducks that he would pick up in in a lot of his videos. And it was just like, what the hell? The videos had no, and this is why I say the dumbification of the human species is because you see a video that's got some real value that could actually impact your life next to a video where a dude's just getting sloshed with his grandma holding a duck. And there is so many more views on the dude who's getting sloshed with his grandma with a duck. That's why I say the dumbification of the human species, is because we would rather watch that, right, than something educational. But there's also, you can't get mad at that. If you're a marketer, you got to say, okay, I got to give people what they want, not what I want them to have, right?
Yeah.
Or at least sell them what they want, and then I can deliver them what I know they need, right? Which is a lot of what we do here in the make money online niche. It's like, sell them a skill or a strategy to build a business or make money. But remember, you're also going to have to teach them the principles. You're also going to have to teach them the mindset. You're also going to have to teach them what comes along with being an entrepreneur and running a business. Because if you don't, they're not going to succeed. Right? But they don't want that shit. They don't want to buy that. They don't want to buy that. They don't want that to be the main ingredient, like the front of the packaging. They're okay with that being part of the ingredients, right? But they don't want that to be the headline. The headline is fat, juicy steak with lots of marbling, right? The ingredients could be antibiotics and other shit that's inside to get it here, and you're going to have to digest that. Whatever. You get my point? Maybe a bad analogy, but the point is that in marketing, we look, our society, we are dumbified in a way. So we got to give people dumb stuff. Like, people would rather be and it's got to be smart stuff packaged sometimes in a dumb or entertaining way. Like, for example, you misspell a word on a post, a lot of times more people will correct the misspelled word than comment on the message, and it could be a really really informative post. but more
Yeah.
people are like, say you misspelled your, and instead of you and didn't use it in the right, there will be the, the literature
Yeah.
professionals in the comments, like asterisk you YOU apostrophe RE, right?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
will be happening. No comment about what was actually said. So there's also that opportunities for people to feel superior or feel like they're teaching a lesson or saying I told you so, or giving their opinion I think this is why just news or the sort of gossip news is so tantalizing, because
Mm.
everybody loves to give their opinion. Oh, he shouldn't be having another kid. Oh, I can't
Yeah.
believe. Well, she knows he cheated on him. I can see it in her face on the reunion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
it's what happens to me when my wife gets me watching the dating shows. We were just watching that there was this 90-day fiance resort thing, and I'm like, all right, I'm into this thing now. We're gonna watch it because some of these are so ridiculous. I mean, you got the one old guy, the bald guy who's with the supermodel, and it's like, man, she's way out of his league, and it's like all this stuff's going on, and then she wants to have an open marriage and wants to do all this. I'm like, man, bro, you gotta just do whatever she wants, because you're not gonna, you're never gonna have an opportunity like that again. And then there's some of these other ones, they're so ridiculous. But it's like, it gets me going in a way where it's like, I just, from the comfort of my living room with nobody but my wife listening, I'll say some outrageous things that I think should be like the way it pans out,
You're revealing who you really are, basically, right in front of her.
Yeah. Yeah,
all your
exactly.
deepest,
No open
darkest.
marriages over here going to be happening. But
You throw that out on the living room just to kind of see her reaction, right? You're like,
yeah.
you better appreciate that open relationship. That's awesome. You'll never get that. Right? Oh my God,
Yeah, but it's like, it's triggering in a sense. It's like, it's triggering, like, not like to where it puts you into a fit of rage, but it's like, like, you can't look away from it, like a bad car wreck. You just gotta, you don't want anything bad to happen, but if it does, you want to see it when it happens, type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta watch it. It just draws you in, and that's why. There's so many shows they're doing the same exact thing, and it keeps your attention, gets you talking, it just gets you. Everybody's got an opinion. There's such a mass appeal to these topics, and so which is why these shows are so successful. And they can do the same thing.
We're in the wrong. I mean, we are like, we gotta. I think all content. It's like I've seen this so much more, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to explore this. But it's like your page, like there's always been this belief that our marketing pages have to be or that our pages on social media have to be so niche specific. But it's like I think that, again, nowadays there's like a lot of stuff that all of y'all are really interested in. You're interested in, you get off on these dating shows. You guys get, look, I do too. We get off on these. I've watched a few over the past whatever year. I've what's the one I like? Perfect Match. I thought that was
seen that one.
Get on that. Love is Blind a couple of times. I've seen Love is Blind, but anyways, you get sucked into these, and it's like you forget that there's also millions of other people that are watching them, and it's like the reason why that's connected into not making your page so niche specific is because, especially if you have a personally branded page that's just you're the brand, expressing and sharing about what you like outside of your target niche and tying those in somehow not in every video. It doesn't have to be paired perfectly with like your topic, but it's like talking about things that are outside of your niche, if you will, like trending events, things that we're talking about, dating shows, like telling little stories about your life, like we're doing right now. Like we're giving people an insight into some of the stuff that we like and that we do. And we're doing this because we understand content. We understand what keeps people's attention, right? I mean, so it's not that I'm not having fun talking about this, but I'm also like, last Friday I had my kid in here. He's crawling all over the desk, acting like a cat. I mean, it's shit that's just out of this world, right? 10, 15 years ago, you got your kid crawling all over in a webcam business meeting, and you're an idiot. It's people are going, what in the fuck is wrong with this guy? But in 2025, it's cool, man. It's people want to see your kids. They want to see your animals. They want to know what you do when you're not on camera. They want to know what your bathroom looks like. They want to know, like, we're just nosy, and we're getting more blatant and ballsy. Privacy doesn't exist anymore. You notice how all the privacy shit that was so important about social media doesn't exist anymore. It's not that they don't have privacy laws and all that good shit, but people don't care. People don't care about privacy anymore. Because everybody's letting everybody into their homes and in most intimate spaces anyways. So you got to think about that in terms of what you can. Doesn't always have to be a prop. Your life, where you go, where you carry the camera, what you're willing to talk about, what you're willing to put on camera. Like all these things they don't feel normal to put out there for your business. They feel too personal. They feel too private. But this is where we're at in society now. This is what made the Kardashians so popular, was they brought you inside their life and got messy, ugly, get ready with me, all the things with them. That was the real, I mean, tell me different in the comments for my Kardashian experts, my Kardashian historians here. Because I am not an expert on the Kardashians, but am I right? It was reality TV. It was what?
Oh yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think
Am I right?
if I'm not mistaken, it was a sex tape that made Kim, what's her name there, Kim Kardashian. So, I mean, you know, so I mean, to have that's not very private. You know, I guess it is, but it's private in a way you don't want. You know,
right?
So, and I mean, but it's shocking too. It's shocking. So it gets a lot of attention. Then the word travels and it gets shared around. And I think like a masterful marketer, similar to what we're doing right now, like to be able to take something like that, not a sex tape, but something that's like mass appeal, a dating related thing, a life related thing, something that a lot of people understand, can connect with, will get attention, they'll pay attention to, and then transition that message into that teaching moment or into that moral or into that thing that does align perfectly with your message, right? So you're not just, you know, beginning to end kind of just like, okay, here's something that's, you know, going to get views, but has nothing to do with what I'm, you know, what I stand for or anything, but it's got both. Right. It's also not just boring from beginning to end, you know, given a lecture. It's kind of how on this live stream, you know, we go off on these little tangents talking about housewives and talking about dating shows, and anybody who sees this live come up in their feed and they're going to say, these guys are talking about this show I was just watching, right? And sharing their opinion on it. They're going to stick around. And then after a couple minutes, they're going to hear us start getting into why we're actually talking about it, which could be the life-changing piece. But now we have their attention, so they're a little more ready to hear it, you know? And that's kind of, you know, to me, you know, you look at like a masterful marketer that's able to grab that attention in large volumes like that and then direct that attention to that specific thing that's going to lead to ultimately that person making money. I mean, that's That's the art.
Yeah, that is the art. That is the art. And this is the this is the this is the things outside of the normal stuff that you think that you can do or talk about. And what I want everybody to think about is, what can you do that's different, that's a I want you to think of your videos and as your brand as sort of like the first 15 seconds of a great TV series or movie, where they started out with some crazy explosion that happens halfway through the movie or at the end, but then they just give you that glimpse to hook you, and then they start at the beginning with the beginning of the story, but they hooked you with that big explosive moment in the middle of the movie. And there's lots of ways to do that. You don't have to be a Disney script writer to script a great video, but you can, even if you're having ChatGPT help you with your scripts of your videos, which I'm doing this a lot right now, taking entire conversations from Wake Up Legendary, the whole video, get it transcribed, and then upload that transcription into ChatGPT to help me quickly come up with fast 1 minute scripts that I can use in videos. And as all you got to instruct ChatGPT to do is give you a hook, a riveting hook, a great way to hook people in at the beginning of the video. You just instruct it to do that. It doesn't have to be masterfully commanded,
Mm-hmm.
but you can even have, there's even tools that will help you to use a good hook. And of course, if you can integrate other things that you're doing, yeah, microphones, I mean, chopping wood, getting ready, putting your shoes on, anything besides just, and it's just, is all you got to do is test. That's the kind of thing that this is a huge point that everybody has to understand, is that you are going to create videos and do things that are not going to feel like they're going to do well, but that's why you have to post it. And over a year's time, you have to look back and not be able to remember how many pieces of content you posted. If you can keep track of it, if you could remember every video, you're not doing enough. Because why is it just a never-ending content hamster wheel, Dave? No, it's not. It's about narrowing down your message at the beginning, especially so you can know what you're talking about and who you're talking to. And then once you know what you're talking about and you know what your message is, then you can start having fun with it. Then you can start, being more creative with it, because you ultimately know where you're coming back to. And that's where you begin to be able to integrate different stories or things that are happening in your life, but you know where you're going with them. You know the point that you're trying to make because you know your message. So the beginning stage is throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall because you don't know what's going to take off, what you're going to enjoy talking about, what's going to be the thing that hits home the most, how you can perfectly and succinctly portray your message of what you do for people and how it impacts their life. But once you find that through a whole bunch of spaghetti throwing at the wall at the beginning, that's why at the beginning it's about quantity, not quality. Just getting them out. That's why we've been doing this 100x challenge with you guys, because it's like post a minimum of 100 pieces of content per month. Not because you're on a content hamster wheel, because you're likely at the beginning stages of just trying to figure out what people like and what you like and what feels good and what's actually going to hit home with people. And you're going to be able to find that through throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall. And once you have that, then that becomes where you always take your message home in videos, or what your big point is to you posting content. But then you can sprinkle and use stories from your day and use metaphors and use analogies and use different, props, because you know ultimately where you're going with it and the point that you're trying to make. And one of the oldest and most, I think used sayings that I've used for years is never tell a story without making a point, never make a point without telling a story.
Yeah.
But it's because, and I say this to people a lot when they're talking, it's not being rude. It's like, what's the point? I say that, not
Mm,
rudely, like, what's the point? I say, so what's the point of what you're trying to say? Because you're telling me all this because you want for a reason. So what's the reason? What's the point of you giving
mm,
me this 5-minute spiel or telling me this story that I'm really entertained by and I'm really interested in listening, but I also want to know what your point is because I know that you're telling me this because of something. So
mm,
you have to be able to, in your marketing, ultimately know what your point is. What's the point of using these props? What's the point of telling these stories? And that only comes through a lot of trial and error. But once you know your point and the points that you're trying to make, then it becomes very easy. Your job becomes very easy, which is now you just have to creatively think of different things and find different things that help you to support that point. And that's
mm.
not only marketing, that's also law, right? That would be how I would approach it. I'm not a trial expert, but how I would approach, just like a lawyer, never ask a question they don't know the answer to. This is trial law 101. You don't in the same thing. You're not in marketing, you don't want to say something you don't know. You don't want to start something that you don't know where you're ending, right? So you want to start with the end in mind, which is what your point is, your message. But some of you don't know your point yet. That's your problem. You don't know your point. You don't know what you're trying to say, and you have to do a bunch at the beginning to find that out. But once you do, then it becomes more fun because you know
Mm.
what you're trying to say, and you just constantly find different fun ways to say it.
Yeah, that was perfectly well put. I mean, you wrapped it up so well there, and that's what I was going to just kind of like my piece I was going to throw in was just like it sounds to me like right what you're saying is that every post we make is all meant to feed that same point, that same conversation, that same narrative that our profile we're here to share this message and make this point and communicate this. And now, what are all the different openings I can put in front of that? What are all the different creative ways I can present or package that message to then prepare to deliver it? Sometimes really, really quickly, sometimes with a longer story, sometimes with something totally unrelated. And make it engaging and entertaining and light and fun and just easy to digest and understand for the people who are seeing me for the first time and have no idea exactly what I'm talking about.
Totally. Totally. And a lot of times if you swoop them with like something that's, not doesn't you catch their attention with something like cuz a lot of times what you want to say is not the most interesting thing they want to hear. Right? They don't want to hear
Mm,
about your course. They don't want to hear about your service. They didn't come online to find an insurance agent or a travel agent or to buy something, right? So you hook them with, and that's why been important to make commercials funny. Like you see all these insurance commercials, they're just some of the best at it. They got some of the biggest money, right? To be able to just allocate towards these dumb ideas. But of all and I'm talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in advertising agency fees. And the smartest thing that they came up with to entertain us, to get us to buy their insurance was these stupid ass commercials with like geckos and lizards and cavemen in a ditzy girl named Flo.
mm,
In the other progressive commercial where they're making fun of people who become their parents. This is the smartest marketing agencies on the planet who work for these insurance companies. That just shows you how stupid we are as from a human perspective. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying like we don't buy from being highly educated and well informed. We buy from laughing.
yeah.
Like these companies, a lot of these insurance companies are like some of the most evil companies in the world, and you wouldn't even know it until you actually try to file an insurance claim, and they just automatically just start denying you, right? But oh my God, that commercial was so funny, right? Because they understand that's what works. So, there's a lot at play here. Sometimes you got to watch the big players to kind of understand, take little clues about human psychology. With that being said, I think that we've brought this baby in for a landing here. You guys have a fantastic Monday. We sure are. Lots in the works. Make sure that you mark your calendar for the first week of September. We're going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. Tickets on sale soon. Ryan, have a fantastic day, brother. As always, appreciate you. Stay legendary. And my friends, get out of here. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode. Peace.